welcome to Questions with Mike. This is Mike. You know him. You don't know who I am. My name's Ian. I've been a part of Mike's creative teams over this last year, media teams, and I'm going to be helping him with the show today. Right? Yeah. Okay, good. Before we start, you have to do something very important. Subscribe to this channel. Do you want your life to change? Do you want to have questions you always needed answers for answered? Just subscribe. It's going to be amazing. Also, like this video if you end up liking it. Watch to the end to make sure if you do or not, though. So, yeah. Okay. So, Mike, your question for today is about the difference between loving correction or accusation. So, trying to discern which is happening in a relationship.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, so not just in a relationship, but even in conversation, you could have that happening with someone that doesn't know you, right? It's a great question. It's a painful question. Yeah, so for me, and this might not be true for everyone, this is true for some people, though. I think a lot of people can do this. Often I can tell the difference, and I'll give other ideas or strategies on this too, but initially, you can tell the difference because of the energy behind the question, or the energy behind what they're saying. Like, there's a sensation that you can feel. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's intuitive. There's like a deeper knowing, but you can sense, I guess, for lack of a better word, that what this person's giving you is corrupted. There's something wrong with it.
Actually, while they're speaking?
Yeah, while they're asking you. Or like maybe a couple seconds after the question or whatever they've said is over, you can kind of feel it having an effect on your being. You're like, oh, something's wrong. I'm not talking about you feeling defensive or insecure or afraid because of your own issues. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if that stuff's not getting in the way, which that's a whole different conversation, but if that's not happening and you're genuinely listening to them and wanting to understand and connect and you feel this something off is happening, usually that's because there's the presence of evil in an exchange, if it's not anything of yours getting in the way. And sometimes people can't tell the difference there. So that's a whole different scenario. But if you're not getting in the way and they say something to you, you can feel that something's off about what they're putting on you or offering or whatever. So that's usually my first telltale sign, like something's wrong. You can use the logic and reason and compare and contrast approach to this as well if you can't feel or you're not aware of any of those sensations. You can also listen to some of the verbiage that they're using. So why don't you give me an example, Ian? Why don't you lovingly correct me first? Let's use that as an example.
Okay, so let's say you showed up late to something that you said you'd be at, and a person approaches you and is like, hey, look, maybe next time something you could do that would really help is just put it in your calendar. As an example of a loving correction, right? Okay. And then maybe in a more accusatory scenario, they could come at you and be like, you did this on purpose, or why would you do that, or more like strong kind of language that's less about actually helping you and more about just putting you down. Hang on.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the words themselves will betray the source of where it's coming from. Typically, because if someone genuinely is trying to help, the verbiage they use might not be super polished, they might not be super presentable when they come to you in this, but you can kind of tell just even by the words they're using that they're actually trying to be constructive, versus someone who's accusing you. Their language is going to throw in some ideas about you that may or may not be true, but the idea is probably implicating there's something wrong with you. You deserve to be punished, you are not acceptable in this form, whatever. The language itself can probably come across that way. So let me give you some version of accusation on that same instance. Let's say you're late, and I'm not lovingly correcting you. I'm accusing you. I might say something like, Ian, you're always late. And clearly you don't care about other people's schedules and how they're affected by your choices, but this is a problem and it needs to change. That has accusation kind of built into the framework, right? Clearly something's wrong with you, and you need to change this because the way you are right now, unacceptable. Right. And it's not about what he did. It's not about an instance. It's not isolated to an experience. This is who you are, right? It's typically where the accusation comes from.
They're the source of it. You're the problem.
Yeah, you're the problem.
You're absolutely the problem.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, clearly you don't care about this because these things have happened. I'm like, whoa. It's actually not actually factually true. I do care about that. And there's a lot of evidence that proves that I do care about that thing. But in the very language, in the conversation, they threw in the idea, the assertion, you don't care about this. you need to do this. And I'm like, whoa. And the whole conversation I was derailed. I was like, whoa. I was kind of blindsided and wasn't expecting this from this person. And it just kind of like derailed me a bit. And I've had to like struggle emotionally to try and stay engaged without wanting to just completely remove myself from the experience because it just felt so poisonous. I'm like, you are not helping me here. And your language is trying to make it sound like you're actually trying to make me more excellent. But you've clearly had some judgments about me up to this point, and some of your motive here is you want to punish me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they even knew that's what was happening, but it came across that way, and it was awful. That was not loving correction. There was accusation in it, right? And so part of it is like being able to pay attention to the way they frame things up. Like, are you being painted into a corner, or are they exposing a whole other realm of wilderness for you to get to explore? Right. Those are two different approaches, right? You're here versus look what you could have, right? Those are two different approaches to a conversation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep, okay. Totally. So how would you respond to loving correction, and how would you respond to accusation?
So in either case, what you have to look at first, no matter who's bringing what to you, is you need to have a clear understanding of where you are. Is there a plank in your eye? Right? Are you already offended? Are you already defensive? No matter who's saying anything to you, are people allowed to give you correction, or is everyone a threat in this area? If that's the case, it doesn't matter if Jesus is sitting in front of you and he's correcting you, which, by the way, when Jesus is correcting you, you want to pay attention. But even if it was Jesus, if you've got a plank in your eye, you're going to be offended and defensive toward him, which I know sounds absurd, but that happens. So we want to first look at, where am I coming from on this? Am I willing to see clearly on this? Am I willing to consider that I might be wrong, that I might have made a mistake, that something needs to change here, that I have some ownership on this mess, right? Can I consider that? So we want to get to a place where we are willing to go there. And I'd like to propose that there's actually a muscle that we can get better at. The more we do it, the more we're willing to consider things that we messed up on, the easier it is to get to that place and to correct it. So that's a lifestyle skill that I think everybody would do very well to develop. Not in the context of abusive relationships where you're always wrong and you're constantly apologizing. I'm not talking about that. That's an exception in a strange situation. I'm not talking about that. In general, though, in functional relationships, we want to get to a place where we can be considerate. Am I in the wrong here? Did I miss something? Did I bring something that shouldn't have been? Whatever. So if we're in that posture and then someone lovingly corrects us, then you want to consider, I call this opening your consideration box, consider, what if what they're saying is true? If that is true, what does that mean? And then as you consider it, you guys, if you actually consider it in your heart, it actually will change your perception of the world. It will influence your experience of a moment or memory or whatever. And then when that happens, all of a sudden you have all this other clarity and insight and understanding that a response shows up from you. You don't have to come up with it. It all of a sudden represents itself because you recognize, like, oh yeah, I missed something, or I did something that was awful or whatever. And you naturally go and clean it up. That's normal for all of us. We all naturally do that. So if it's loving correction and you allow it, and it starts to instruct you or guide you or correct you in a way that's like helpful, then you've just been given a gift. So you hug the person that corrected you, and then you go make it right. You go clean it up. You're like super thankful that they even had the guts and the willingness and took the time to invest in your life, whether they're a mentor or a rando on the street. The fact that they'd be willing to do that, if it actually benefits you, you can recognize the beauty and the value of that. That is so precious. And I would say rare at this point. So if people are willing to do that in your life, man, you have struck gold. Respond accordingly. Thank them and then go make it right, okay? If it's accusation, you open your consideration box, like, okay, are they right? And as you consider it, and when it does, the thing will do something to you as well. It won't produce life. It won't lead you to a place. It'll feel like something's wrong. Something's being taken from me. I'm being trapped. I'm being diminished. I'm being reduced, which is not what the loving correction of the Lord feels like. And so if you can feel yourself, again, this is coming from, I don't have a plank in my eye. I'm not defending myself. I'm not trying to be right. I'm considering, what if they are right? And then in that place, if you can feel it tearing you down, something's wrong. And so if that's the case, then I'm going to respond to the person with, depending on the relationship, thanks for saying something. I'm not sure that I agree. I'm going to take what you said into consideration. I'll go work this out. But thank you for being willing to share this. And I'm going to dismantle the sharp edge and the bent against me with a gratitude and an honoring of what I would like for their intention to be, regardless, because they might not know they're accusing me. Right. But they might be trying to say something that's constructive and bringing accusation in the midst of it. They might legitimately be trying to hurt me. And if that's the case, if you know they're trying to hurt you, that's a different approach. But by and large, I think often people are accusing us without realizing that's what they're doing. It doesn't mean they're not doing it. It just means that they're not connected to their own motive, right? Which is a bummer. But anyway, I'd be like, thanks for being willing to share this with me. I know that's probably not fun. I don't know that I agree. I don't see it yet. I'll take some time to process this, though. And yeah, who knows? There might be truth here. Thank you for being willing to share. And then I'm going to end that conversation there. I'm not going to invite further input or like looking for them to give me more clarity. I'm like, thank you. I'm going to go take this somewhere else and look into it, right? If they're straight up accusing you and you know that, and there's nothing constructive here and they're just trying to hurt you, I'm going to respond with something like, hey, this conversation actually feels pretty inappropriate. I don't know that I'm like looking for this kind of feedback from you, and I don't know that what you're giving me is actually helpful. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to be responding to this. And this is probably an extreme case, not all the time, but if you are in a relationship where someone's treating you that way, I'm probably going to push back and let them know this is a dead end. We're not going anywhere with this. They need to know that. You know what I mean? And I need to know that I can say that to the world. That I can say no to evil in my life, and I will take care of this. Like, I need to demonstrate that to the rest of myself, because if I don't, my self-esteem, my confidence, those things get kind of broken down, and there's access for other things to come and steal that stuff from me. So I need to represent myself in that place if that's what's going on. I'm answering your question?
Yes, that's really good. That's really good, yeah.
And one thing I'm going to throw in there, too, is, like, if you've got a mentor or a leader in your life that's bringing loving correction, and you're not used to that, or it's new to you, again, you want to sort out, like, where is this coming from? In terms of your reaction, your defensiveness, your fear of that, if we're in a place where we're compromised, their loving correction might feel like accusation because we don't know how else to perceive it. We feel like I know people on my team where I'll correct them, and it's coming from love, and I'm genuinely like stepping in and disrupting their process because I want better for them. But in the past, most leaders, especially who corrected them, came at them with a hammer or a chainsaw or something, like, yeah, this needs to stop immediately, and there's something wrong with you. And so they hear what I'm saying through the lens of punishment and accusation and condemnation or whatever, and they like shrink back and like walk away with a limp. I'm like, what are you doing? I didn't hit you. Are you okay? What's going on? Like, you know what I mean? And that's just coming from this preconceived like judgment of what leaders are like and what correction means to them. And there's just an agreement there that like, oh, I'm being corrected. That means that there's something wrong with me and I need to be punished. And that's not true. So as we break up with those rules of this game, you can actually hear constructive criticism or like correction from a leader who cares about you, and they don't even have to do it perfectly, and you can actually walk away with more life than you did before they said anything. Legitimately, that's the deal. Obviously, there are variables if the leader doesn't love you or isn't actually trying to help. That's a whole different story. But if you have someone who actually wants to contribute to your life and bring help, then if we can sort this, that's an incredible, life-changing support that brings clarity and guidance years beyond what we've experienced and sets us up for success. And it's such a beautiful thing that we do need in our world. So if that happens, man, you buy that mentor lunch. You give them $5. I'm just kidding. But, you're grateful for that because they don't have to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's for your benefit. Anyway, yeah.
Hey guys, like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit the notification bell so you get notifications when the new videos come out. And really quick, I just want to say, mentorship changes your life. Getting feedback that's loving, that's not accusatory, that's not like trying to hurt you or put you down, it changes your life. It really does when it is coming from love. And I think I've had a lot of experience in that. What? Yeah, over my time being mentored and led in this way. And so I just really want to encourage you. If that's something you're looking for, there's actually a school that Mike is going to be hosting in September. It's called the School of Reformation, Pneuma School of Reformation. We'll put a link in the description for it. Look into that. Seriously consider it. It's a way that you can be a part of a lot of the interns and our team's processes and being led in this way, and you'll get some really, really quality content and teaching from it as well. So go check that out.